So first of all, I want to show you a beautiful and iconic example of a classical text. This is part of a long papyrus of the Iliad. So this is Homer at his full glory. From 200 something AD in Greek, original Greek. Don't be struck by the line numbers. This is Bodleian curators marking the lines. So this is not part of the original. It was a long scroll which probably contained the entire book 2 of the Iliad in Greek, written in this beautiful majuscule script, uppercase Greek letters of Alexandria, which are round shape. So that is the utmost luxury you can have. You see the large margins. Someone was not sparing the precious papyrus. So this is a luxury copy, probably made for a woman in whose grave this was found, under her head basically. And this is why the central part is protected, because that was rolled up and put under her head. But what is interesting in this... And what is interesting in this is, maybe some of you, can you see these? Tiny things. What do you see there?
It's like arrows.
Yeah. So it's not dirt or a dead insect under the glass. This is intentional. You can see arrows. Yes. So this is these are the critical signs of the Alexandrian scholars of the library, marking the dubious lines in Homer, because they discovered that the manuscripts of the Iliad often do not agree. Some have more lines, some have other lines, some have no lines at these places. And when they had doubts about the authenticity of a line, they put this thing which is called the dipli in Greek to mark that this line is a bit problematic. And sometimes, in another frame, for example, they gave their reasons why they thought it was problematic in terms of little commentaries put on the margin, which we call the scholia, because they were later used in schools. So scholia is basically school edition, school commentaries. And this is a nice example of the critical edition of Homer. A lot of work has been invested in producing the final version, the purified version of Homer. All the philological works of the great Alexandrian scholars, Aristarchus, Xenodotos, Aristophanes of Byzantium, they spend their lives on comparing the various versions and creating this critical edition, which is what we have now, is the authentic, what they thought authentic version of the Iliad, marked with these things, and often with the commentaries around the text on the margin to justify their selections of lines. And I wanted to show you that this is a beautiful example of a classical text, which is basically the context in which the Greek translation of the Old Testament will arrive. And we will see what impact this makes on the transmission of the Greek Old Testament. But before we do that, I want to show you the ultimate result of the scholarship of the Alexandrians in a manuscript which is not here, unfortunately, but in Venice, in San Marco. And this is the facsimile from the 19th century, so it's black and white, but it gives us a very, very good idea about what the final outcome of the editorial work should look like. So please all come here, because this will be very important to see what the content of such a manuscript looks like. So first, this is Iliad, same thing as that one, written in 1059 or 1066, so 11th century, the earliest full manuscript of the Iliad with glosses around it. But we will see that. First of all, we have a text called The Life of Homer by Proclus, the philosopher, whom you may have heard about. He was a commentator of the Iliad as well. So it's not the Iliad, there are other things before, and that's what I would like to highlight. So the life of Homer, illustrated, beautiful. And then another life by someone else. So another version of the life of Homer, Proclus the philosopher, about the gens of the poetic genres in which the Iliad belongs. So still not the text, right? Illustrated. It's another treatise about the exact location of Troy, which you need to know before you start reading the text. This is the end. And Aristarchus, you know, all the creators, the editors of the text are listed, and their details. This should be a portrait of the author Homer here. This should be the title. You see, this is the wisdom, the divine wisdom, which Homer actually sort of incarnates in the Iliad. And then all the editors are listed, probably with their images, and then finally, Mininae Thea, so the first line of the Iliad, book 1, line 1, surrounded by extensive commentary taken from the works of all these, Aristarchus, Dinodotos, Aristophanes, and so on. So this is the full critical edition, life of the author, things you need to know before you start reading the text, and then commentary around it, which we call the scholia. And sometimes, you can see, even between the lines, the content stuff, basically, is written in the margin because you need more space to explain who this person is, what's the mythology behind that or that, this or that. And the linguistic things, where you need to know what kind of very ancient Greek verb format this one is, that you put in between the lines. So this is the fullest edition you can have. The preliminary stuff, commentary on the content around, and commentary on the language between the lines. Please keep this in mind. This is what a full edition of a classical text should look like. We will see one example just because it's nicer. It's colorful. Again, something elsewhere. Now from Venice we go to Austria, to Vienna. This is the pride of the National Library of Austria, a medical work attributed to Dioscoros, who was a surgeon and a disciple of Galen, and he wrote a manual on herbs, all the healing, all the plants with healing powers. Yeah, and this is a manuscript from the late 6th century, so it's like 580s or 90s when this one was written, probably for a member of the imperial family of Justinian the Great, and it fully survives in Vienna. But let's see how it starts. I hope everyone can see. If not, please do come over because you can see through the people. It's very important to keep this in mind, what the full edition looks like. So here we see the circle of Galen, all his disciples learning from the master. This is Galen again, with the snake of Asclepius and his disciples around him. So it's sort of an image of the author, right? And it's a legitimation of the author that the knowledge comes from Galen himself, ultimately. This is later stuff, but it's a list of chapters. This is the author himself, Dioscoros, with evresis, which is creativity. So it's the divine creativity dictating the knowledge to Dioscoros, the knowledge which is recorded in the book. And so it's a portrait of the author. Here we have again Dioscoros in his study, working very hard on the book which we are going to read. Yeah. And this is probably, it says Sophia and Phronesis, but this is a later attempt to identify the female figures here as wisdom, thinking, mind, but this is not right. This is probably the commissioner, Julia Anicia, one of the imperial family, who wanted to be recorded in the book as well. So we didn't get to the text yet, right? And then what you have is the title, beautifully written in a circle. Now we are getting closer. And then the chapters. This is a table of contents which is essential for a list of healing plans, right? Because you don't want to read the whole thing. You just want to know what this kind of grass is useful for. So that's what you have, an alphabetical list of content. Finally, the title, written in beautiful majuscule letters in Greek. And then the thing itself, right? Illustrated. So the features of the plants are described in Greek, And an image is always included because you need to make sure that what you want to use is exactly what you have in your hands. So you compare the plant, what you are going to use to the image here. And these texts always transmitted with the images. And what is very peculiar about just this manuscript is that it's written in uppercase Greek, but then in the 14th century they couldn't read this or didn't like it, so they rewrote it in a contemporary Greek, so it's cursive Greek, and then it was translated when it got to the hands of the Crusades. Everything was translated into Latin, which is quite cool. And then when it got to the Ottomans, they translated the plant names into Turkish, and they recorded it with Arabic letters, and in an exceptional manner, somehow it got to the Jewish surgeons as well. So Greek, Latin, Hebrew, and Arabic. So it shows the great carrier of this book, because it's a practical thing. No religion involved, so it doesn't really matter which culture you are, you just use the practical knowledge included in this. But what we need to keep in mind is that how it starts, right? Life portrait of the author, introductory material, list of chapters, and then the text, and some commentary. And let's keep this in mind when we go to the other side of the table. We start on this hand with a fragment, unfortunately. So we are now, this is a bit earlier than the Homer manuscript. So prophetic books, Greek translation, Septuagint, a fragment of a manuscript, beautifully written. The other half, the bigger half, is with the bloody Italians in Florence. The nicer bit, the bigger bit, is in the Laurentiana in Florence. We don't know how the beginning of the manuscript landed in the Bodleian, but it is with us. And it gives us a good idea about how the prophetic books in Greek will begin, and we can compare that to the classical ones. So, anyone with Greek? No? Kephalea Isaiou tu prophetu. So the chapters of the book of the prophet Isaiah, right? Does it ring any bell? The chapters of the Herbal, yeah? So we are not at the text, that's what I'm trying to say. It doesn't start with the text immediately. So it's like a description of what is going on in that chapter. You see, Alpha, Vita, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. Short description, beautifully written actually, Alexandrian uppercase letters. And it goes through, that's a very long book, Isaiah. So has a lot of chapters. We are 35. This is 50, so it's just the chapters. This is the end of the chapters. This is 79. And then biography. So the life of the prophet Isaiah, beautifully written, probably authored by someone called Hesychios. The lives of the prophets are interesting things because they go back to ancient Jewish legends, even if they are written in Greek. This one is written by someone called Hesychios, who could be anyone basically. But this is the life, beautiful. You can see how nicely written with golden ink, the initials. And we are still not there. And this is exactly where our bit of the manuscript finishes, because look what comes after. And the Italians. So the summary of the book in beautiful majuscules in a nice hat piece. So this is printout of the digital version of the Laurentiana manuscript, because we don't have the thing here. But this is what should be the next page, yeah? And then the portrait of the author. Isaiah himself, being inspired by Christ. Does it ring any bell how Dioscoros was sitting with his master, right, Galen, getting his knowledge from Galen as his disciple, and that's what's included in the book. Now we have the author, Isaiah, getting his inspiration from his teacher, which is God himself, so that's much better than Dioscoros. And this is his portrait with, in a good Byzantine way, surrounded by metrical epigrams about the significance of Isaiah. And then we turn the page, and there we are oh, sorry, I printed the wrong one. This is Jeremiah, but believe me, Isaiah looks the same. It's the book itself, again, surrounded by the commentary of many authors, and this is extracted from other books to explain what's happening in the text in terms of content. And this manuscript doesn't have that, but in many cases you have the commentaries between the lines.